We have two wonderful guests today that will share some wonderful experiences that they've had with the metaphysical world. And there is a common bond between them that we just found out about a few minutes ago, so we decided to include each other in their wonderful testimonials. And since this is February and it's Heart Month, the stories they're about to share with you involve matters of the heart, and they're quite significant. I would like to introduce Pauline, and this is Kathleen. And these wonderful ladies are clients of mine, but I would say through the years we have evolved into a wonderful connection. I would say that I would consider both of you my friends, and I thank you for that. And I also appreciate the fact that you would come to the studio, the wonderful SCTV studio, to bear witness to some of the things that have happened. And I think that I'll begin with your wonderful situation with your wonderful brother. When I first met Pauline and her wonderful family about 6-7 years ago, they were hoping to make a connection with her brother Dennis, who had passed away. And I believe that I asked you something about a man on a motorcycle. Yes. And I said, the man on the motorcycle is very happy. And as I continued to speak with you, this is her wonderful brother, as I continued to speak with you, your brother was standing behind you, and it was very emotional because he reached into his chest area and he brought out his heart. And your brother said to me, I am so, so happy that they were unselfish and loving, and that they transplanted and gave my heart to a recipient. And I believe that is the gentleman that is the recipient.
Yes.
And he's right there. And we continued to speak, and I think the family was quite comforted that your brother was able to thank you for being so unselfish and so wonderful in giving someone else a second chance in life.
Yes.
And I believe we continued to speak, and I told you that you were going to be moving.
Yes, you did.
And what happened?
You told me that we were going to be moving, we were going to buy a house, and I said, absolutely not. We're not doing that right now. And you told me that I would be living on a street that begins with a J,
right.
And they were going to call it the J Street Crew. Turns out the house next door to my mother's, where one of my best friends in the whole entire world lived, she was an older woman, and I looked to her as my grandmother.
Mary.
Mary, yes. And their house went up for sale, and my husband came home from work, and we looked at each other and we said, let's do it, let's buy it. And it's on Jefferson Street, and everyone in the neighborhood's really close, and they called us the J Street Posse, which was really funny.
So it came true. Now, I came to visit you about a year or so later,
Mm-hmm.
and I walked into the new house, which is very beautiful. You renovated it, it's wonderful.
Yes.
And this spoon was on the table. So, you know, I came in, we were kind of exchanging pleasantries, and we were saying some of the things that came true for you, and I picked up the spoon, and I had told you you were going to meet the recipient,
Mm-hmm.
and you weren't sure about that, and I said, no, he's going to come to dinner. And I looked at you, and I said, the recipient came for dinner, didn't he? And you said he did. And I said, he went into the kitchen drawer, and he took this spoon out, and there were many other things in there,
Yes.
and he knew it was your brother's baby spoon.
Yes.
And I remember you were like, yes! He did.
He did.
And what that is called, I explained to you, it's called genetic memory.
Mm-hmm.
And very, very frequently now we're having the wonderful ability to have transplanted organs given to people who need them. And it can be family members, it can be strangers, and especially in a time of great sorrow, to be so altruistic and say, you know what, I know something good can come out of this. That's what your lovely family did. And there's a book out there called The Heart's Code, and it talks about an immunologist who does quite a bit of research. And what they're finding out is that many times when you have a transplanted organ, you, as a recipient, begin to have the memories and the emotions of the person who donated it. And I believe I gave you the name. I think I said his name is Ray.
Yes, you did.
And maybe now you can explain some of the similarities between the two men.
Well, Ray had an 8-year-old daughter at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and he was very fortunate that my brother was able to give him his heart. Ray was a very simple man, liked everything bland, Well, now, since his transplant, Ray wants everything spicy. He eats steak and cheese subs with the hot sauce on it. When he was visiting my parents, they were taking him for a tour around town, and there was this big white fluffy dog walking by, and he said, "Wow, what a beautiful dog. I love that dog. I'd love to have that dog." My mother said, "That was Dennis's dog. That dog belonged to Dennis."
Okay.
It's just amazing, the things that happen. Ray calls my mother all the time, and the first thing he says is, "What's up?" And that's what Dennis used to say, "What's up?"
See?
And it comforts my mother. It's really nice.
Well, the other thing, too, is I think to meet him and to look at him and to know that because of your brother's unselfish gift and your love of him, you have given someone a second chance at life. And I think I told you this recently. I feel you only have the one brother, but I feel that you have two.
Yes.
And I think your mother has given birth again. The first time around to Dennis,
Yep.
and the second time around to Ray.
Yes.
And I would encourage everybody in the listening audience, think about this, think about being an organ donor, because you can give something back. You can give your eyes, you can give your heart, you can give bone. There's so many things that you can give to someone. And I think, too, in such a sad time, to be so thoughtful to someone else.
Yes, no, it's beautiful.
And I think when I came to you, I think I was able to give you some kind of comfort. And the loss is still there, of course it is, but now you rejoice in this man's life, and because of what you did and your family and Dennis, this man had a second chance, and now he's seeing his second generation.
That's right.
How wonderful is that?
That's right.
And where did your brother have his heart transplant?
My brother was
The
at
donor.
Ray had the transplant at Brigham and Women's Hospital.
The
in
Shapiro
Boston.
Center?
Yes.
Okay. Now I'd like to segue, thank you so much, I'd like to segue over to Kathleen. And the wonderful part of this is Pauline and Kathleen have never met. And today we're here, and it turns out that you worked at the Shapiro Center for a few years as a, is it a CNA or a nursing assistant?
As a medical assistant. I was part of the LVAD and cardiac transplant clinic.
All right, and I'd like to segue into how I met you. And we met through a wonderful gentleman by the name of Jeffrey. They call him Jeff, all right? And very handsome gentleman. And I'm going to say that I think Dennis and Jeff orchestrated this up there. I think they did.
Absolutely.
And Jeff sadly passed away in April of, what year was it? That's okay.
April of 07.
07. And when I met you, I kind of tapped into him, and he was very much verbalizing the connection the two of you had. And I would say that I would indicate that the two of you are soulmates even to this day. And he was quite insistent to tell me to tell you that you were going to get a tattoo to honor him. And I think you were kind of pensive about it, and you said, I am thinking about that. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to get. And we met, I think it was maybe in late summer, early fall.
Yes.
And I said to him, is there something else you want her to know? And he said, I'm going to send her a Valentine. When she gets the tattoo, I'm going to send her a Valentine. And now maybe you could continue with what happened.
I received this Valentine from a nurse that I worked with. And my tattoo happens to be in Hebrew, and it says, I am my beloved's and my beloved is mine. And that's exactly what the Valentine card says on it.
And the woman did not know your tattoo?
She had no idea what the tattoo said.
And how did you feel when you did receive it? What was your reaction?
I was overcome with emotion.
Of course.
Overcome with emotion.
And I think what we're trying to say is that if somebody can come back and tell you that you're going to get a Valentine in regards to a tattoo, which you had no idea you were getting, you weren't sure exactly what it was, and 3 or 4 months later you get the tattoo, and what was the nurse's comment? She said she was
shopping around for Valentines for her grandkids.
Right.
And she heard a voice, and the voice kept saying, get this card for Kathleen. So she continued shopping and came back to the rack, and when she looked up, she was compelled to grab this card.
And it says exactly what it says on your tattoo.
Exactly what the tattoo says.
And I have to say, too, that when you can have such a clear connection to Dennis and such a clear connection to Jeff, you have to realize, and I think you both do, that the earthly life is temporary. The earthly life, this body, whatever we are, whatever physical aspects of us, is only for a little while. And what made us us our soul, which was given to us through God, our soul goes back to glory. Were there some other things that Jeff told you that came to be true? Can you recall some of them?
Yes, he kept calling me the Queen of Hearts, Queen of Hearts,
Okay.
and I never knew why. And turns out I became an employee at the Shapiro Cardiovascular Center,
In the heart
working with the
unit.
transplant patients.
All right. And have you received any apports from him? Things from the other side besides the Valentine? Can you recall if you received anything?
I received a person that he sent to me that had a similar
Situation.
experience, so.
All right. So there was a connection through the same circumstances with a new person in your vibration.
Absolutely.
And in your experience over the years, have you received any apports from your brother at all?
I sit in my classroom at school, and little white feathers fall from the sky and land on my desk.
All right, they're from him, and you know that.
Oh, definitely.
Okay. And I think I kept mentioning one time to you, Buddy, 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 and it meant absolutely nothing. And what happened?
Oh, we got a dog named Buddy.
Okay.
I'm not a dog person, did not want a dog at all, and we just happened to be at the Liberty Tree Mall, went into the pet shop, and there was a little puppy, and my girl said, "Oh, Mommy, we love him." We started taking him home, and my
He's
daughter
there.
said, "Let's call him Buddy."
Right.
And I said, "Okay." And then I remembered what you said, and I'm like, "Oh, she's right. You got a dog."
So that's why I tell people you keep a running commentary, you keep your notes. If you tape it, you keep your tape. And the other thing is for the two of you to come in and not know each other and to have strong connections to the heart.
Yeah.
It's amazing that
It is amazing.
his surgery was there, his transplant was there, your love told you Queen of Hearts, you are the Queen of his heart, and you worked at the Shapiro Center. So I'm just going to say that to the audience out there, we're always here to educate, enlighten, and entertain. And when you can hear the wonderful experiences that have come true for people, some of them involve apports, some of them are prophecies, and some of them are just to reiterate that, you know what, you were so unselfish and you gave someone else another chance at life, that I have to say that it gives pause for thought that the message we're trying to convey to you is the soul is eternal. Yes, in our discussion with Jeff, he's always very verbal. He always talks about you and where you're going, and I think both of you have your own guardian angels, your brother
Yes.
and your fiance. And I think he made reference to you meeting firefighters at some point in time, and something about New York.
I did. I met firefighters from New York that were here to say goodbye to Jim Rice.
Yes.
But my friend Paul is also a firefighter.
Okay.
And Jeff kept saying, look for the firefighter's hat. Make sure you look for the firefighter's hat. And I wasn't sure what he meant until I saw Paul's picture. And in the center of his helmet, he's got the Red Sox symbol.
Okay.
And Jeff and I are huge Red Sox fans. We would go to New York to see them play the Yankees. And
I think, too, what was so special, too, when we met, he kept showing me Hammond Castle. He kept showing me Hammond Castle in Halloween. He said, show her Hammond Castle in Halloween, and that has special meaning for you. Maybe you can explain it.
yes, I actually pulled up a lot of information on the website for Hammond Castle, and I didn't say anything to him, and he happened to call me at work. He said, I know where I want the venue for our wedding to be. And I said, where? And he said, the Hammond Castle. It just sent chills down my spine.
You were on the same wavelength.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And
we
what
were
does
supposed to
Halloween
get
is?
we were supposed to get married that Halloween at the Hammond Castle. It's our absolute favorite holiday.
Well, the other thing is that you have a wonderful job now. You're doing this, I think, you know, part-time and segueing into it. It's a beautiful venue. You're working in a,
Bridal salon.
right. So I'm going to say that I think someone that had that connection with that kind of love has to be just so wonderful to work with, to find the right gown, to find the right accessories. So it's
Absolutely.
almost like your heart is in your work in regards to the joy that the two of you had with each other. Do you feel him around you? Can you
I
pick up on
do.
him?
I
You
do.
can. All right. You dream of him?
I dream of him. I still, every once in a while, I can smell him, his scent.
Right.
I can feel him put his arms around me. I
Right.
know it sounds crazy, but he
No,
is still with me.
I think you're right, and I think they make that connection even stronger. And I think, too, that I gave you, did I say April 10th?
hmm
And what was April 10th? That was
April 10th was our anniversary, as well as the day that we turned off his life support. So,
So April 10th had a strong, strong connection on several levels for you.
absolutely.
And do you feel that since he's made the connection, has that made things a little more comfort level for you?
Yes, yes, because I know he's still here,
That's right. He's
and
never
he
gonna
always
leave.
will be.
Of course, always. And I wanted to ask you, do you dream of your brother?
All the time.
Okay.
And one thing that you had said to me was that my brother sings Blue by LeAnn Rimes
Yes.
to me all the time. And I've been waiting, you told me this years ago, and,
Okay.
I just keep waiting to hear the song. Last year on American Idol, there was a girl who sang Blue by LeAnn Rimes. Her name was Haley Rain Hart.
Okay.
My niece's name is Haley, my daughter's middle name is Rain, and my brother gave his heart.
All right, so you got the message.
Oh, definitely.
Okay. So I'm going to say that sometimes, you know, you might hear something from them and it doesn't really connect. There's no recognition. And then a month later, 6 months later,
Yep.
5 years later, you get the connection. And then you know that they were telling you something because they can see
Yep.
the future. And I try to explain to people, and I'm so happy I have this opportunity to share with the audience what we do. What I'm doing doesn't come from me. It's not me. I'm the messenger.
Right.
I'm the venue. And they talk, and I hear them, and sometimes I see them, and then I explain it. And they're in eternal life. And if you look in the Bible, in the Old Testament and the New Testament, it's clearly saying that if somebody can give you something, a circumstance, a date, a connection, the future, then you know that it's coming from the divine realm, because that only comes from God. And when, you know, there are messages, there's people that can receive them, and when you can give the validity of the message, you can give the man's name. You can give the action that you did so unselfishly. You can give the tattoo that wasn't even formulated yet, and you can get the Valentine that says it. The comfort level has to be like, oh, it's real. And I often liken it, and I can say that with the two of you, when I met you and I started to tell you some of the things, I could see your reaction. I call it the Helen Keller response. And Helen Keller was a very, very incredible heroine to me. I admired her. And as you know, she was stricken with an illness as a young infant, and she lost her senses of sight and hearing. And she, despite that, she went to Radcliffe College and she graduated magna cum laude. This is a deaf blind woman. And she used to go, I just found this out, she used to go to see the soldiers that came home from the war. And she would stand at the foot of their bed and she would say to them, because she could speak, she would say, "Fear not. Look at me. Look what I did." And in her later years, her very later years, they asked her, they said, "Are you afraid of death?" And this is a deaf blind woman, and she said, "There is no death." She said, "I will go to glory." And she said, "I will truly see my father, my mother, my friends, my siblings." This was a blind deaf woman, and she got it. And the Helen Keller connection to me is when she has her hands under the water and she doesn't know what they're doing. And then you remember Patty Duke, you see her kind of go, "Oh!" Well, that happens. That happened with you. When I started to say this, I saw you go, and when I did it to you, you went. And to me, that's like the Helen Keller finding out that there is a world out there. And she did an autobiography. It was quite wonderful. It was her story. And she said she was in this dark prison. And she said, when I found, you know, through her teacher, I think Ann Macy Sullivan, she said it was like the bird opened the cage and I flew. And she said it was like my soul was set free. So I would liken that to when I am able to make the connection with your wonderful sibling and with your wonderful soulmate. When I can make that connection and I can impart to you what they're trying to tell you, then you know that their soul has been set free. Their bodily body is gone, but their esoteric body is perfect. Has this helped your mother?
Oh, it really has. I think if my mother hadn't met Ray, I don't think she would be doing as well as she is today.
Okay.
She's very happy. She's very grateful. Ray loves her. He calls her all the time.
There's a connection.
It is. It's the nicest thing. It's great for my mother and my father as well. They both consider him a son.
And the thing is, to have made something good come out of something that was so devastating to everyone,
Yep.
that I think has helped considerably, because now this wonderful man got to see a grandchild that he might not have been able to see.
Right.
And I often talk about organ donation. I didn't really know that much about it myself. I didn't. And I was working with a lobbyist right when I got out of college, and we were doing some legislation on organ donation. And there are guidelines to follow, and there should be. And I remember we were taking people to speak on behalf of these bills, and a very lovely woman came into the office, and we were talking to her, and she said, "I'd like to testify for organ donation." I said, "Okay." And she said, actually, she said, I was blinded at the age of 5 through corneal burns. And she said, I grew up, I got married, I went to college, and she said, a donor authorized the corneal transplants from one person. She said, and I got them. And she said, when they took the bandages off, I saw my children and my husband for the first time. And I'm stunned by this. She went to law school, she learned to drive, and here she is right in front of me. So her life of blindness was completely transformed because someone said, give something back. So I would encourage, it's amazing, I would encourage everyone, and you must have seen all those things happening in your unit.
Absolutely.
And he somehow connected the two of you today. And I think that if we can share with our audience to educate, enlighten, and entertain, think about it. You can give the gift of life back to someone. And if we are going to glory, and if we are finished with our earthly life, and we are going to the Creator, think about, you know, being an organ donor. Think about talking to your families about doing this, because an incredible life was changed for always. And you were part of that wonderful process at the Shapiro Center. And today something brought all of us together, and I think it had to be these two gentlemen.
Oh, it sure was.
So I want to thank everyone, and I want to thank the two of you, because you've just enhanced what I do by coming here and being so sincere and sharing with everyone. And today it was all about matters of the heart.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Linnea and Friends, and it's a wonderful opportunity to bring different people from areas of life that are pretty diversified to give experiences that have come true with them through the metaphysical journey that we all take on a daily basis. And I would ask people to have an open heart and an open mind, and just try to envision that someone from the other side, it could be a loved one, it could be a friend, it could be, you know, a spirit guide trying to connect with you and trying to give you the knowledge that the soul is eternal. I would also ask people to look for synchronicity. And synchronicity means there's no coincidence, that things happen for a reason. It's a methodology to get your attention, to have you realize something, that there's a message coming to you. And I also would say that when you do have somebody on the other side, you can ask them to come back to you. You can talk to them and you can say, I would like to have you come to me in a dream. I would like to have you send me something that's symbolic to the two of us. And I think that when you are open to that, you're more conducive to having the experience become a solidified part of your life. If you do have dreams about a loved one, I would keep a dream book. You kind of write things down, and usually there's some kind of message that they're trying to tell you. And I would also ask people that if you do have a religion, whatever your religion is, it's a foundation, it's an anchor of faith. It helps you get through all of the aspects of our lives, whether the happy times, whether the difficult times, whether the sad times. And I would just say that when you do look at the show, and I have to thank Saugus Community Television for helping me get my message out, when you do see some of the wonderful people that come in to express themselves and to share with you some of the things that have come true for them, then you have to sit there and you have to realize that there is another life after the earthly one. There is an eternal life where we find everybody again, because our soul is truly eternal. It is our body that is temporary. It is just a transient point in time. Your earth time is really not that long, but your eternal time is for always. So I would just ask you to have an open heart and an open mind, and be aware of all the possibilities that exist in the metaphysical realm. And thank you.